All right, welcome everybody to the Gainzcast. Mark is busy. He has some meetings, and I believe Matt might join us here shortly. But all of you know who I am, Alan Roberts. But I wanted to introduce you to this man. This is the most censored man on TikTok. So please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Tim Cramer. I go by Cramer Says on TikTok, or at this point, Cramer's Vengeance.
Yeah.
I just like to speak truth. Tell people what's going on and at least give insights as to what's going on in the news on a daily basis. And for whatever reason, the leftists don't like that.
I've noticed that myself, actually. So I've thought I was pretty well marked by them because I started TikTok almost a year ago, probably.
Yeah, about the same time for me.
Yeah, my first channel went fairly viral. I pointed out how Lizzo jamming Oreos into her face is like her acting like she's never eaten an Oreo before was kind of ridiculous, and people got very pissed. But and then about a month later, started getting the weird, it's such a liberal, very leftist zone, where people were pressuring me do you like black people? Well, depends on the fucking person. I'm 50. I know better than to fall into that trick question because I know I've met plenty of assholes that are black people and I've met plenty of assholes that are white people and far in between. So I answered like that and they fucking went off. They were just say yes. I'm not going to just say yes. I'm not going to say I don't like you and you're black and you're fucking giving me a hard time already, And I noticed that it's super, super far leaning left, right?
Yep.
And then the channel all of a sudden one of my older videos took off, somehow it got in the For You page, and it started going 1,000 new followers every 10 minutes.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And my wife was like, "This is great." I'm like, "They're gonna ban me almost instantaneously." And they're like, "Why?" I was like, "The second I go viral, they're gonna ban me every single time you watch." And sure enough, I hit 92,000 followers, and they fucking it was gone. They didn't send a notification, nothing.
It's almost the same exact story for me. A buddy of mine sent me a stupid dog video, and I looked at it, and having spent the majority of my career in advertising, marketing, or media, I looked at it. I'd never messed with TikTok before. I looked at it and I go, "This is pretty cool." And so I spent the next 2 or 3 hours just figuring out how it worked.
Right.
The first 2 videos that I made were me and my granddaughters playing around with the filters. The third video that I made went viral. That one's still out there. That one at this point, because having worked working in media, we can track specific videos and views across the internet. That particular video has over 500 million views.
Wow.
My content worldwide at this point is 4.2 billion views. And that was 4 or 5 weeks ago when we last checked. So what we're seeing is that TikTok, these social media platforms, these 1 to 2, 3 minute videos are now allowing guys in their basements the ability to have the same broadcast ability as major networks. And that's the democratization of information. And as soon as that happened, what did they do? They clamped down on it.
Right. Hard.
They want complete control of the narrative. And that's what these trolls have done. That's their, the disciples of trolls. That's what their goal is to silence dissent or to be the sheep that bawl loud enough to drown out your voice or your message. And so that's the fight that we're against right now.
Now, how much do you think that is just actual trolls, or how much do you think it is actually coordinated effort? Because I gotta be real, I just saw that TikTok is partnering with this. I think it's the Stonewall group, and the Stonewall group for those people that are wondering who that is. They're a very pro-trans rights group, and I personally I don't have too much of an issue with shit like that, except for the fact that, hang on a second, I just got a text. Yeah. Give me some. Matt is trying to join, so give me a second. But the very pro trans group, they're the ones that said something like lesbians that don't want to sleep with trans women are sexual racists or something something crazy like that.
Right.
Where I was just like, sexual racists? Are you fucking kidding me? So I think to a certain extent, though, a lot of it is coordinated.
That's what the trolls that we're seeing, especially the trolls that go after the larger accounts like myself. we did an extrapolation, and if I had been left alone, and you see how the growth of TikTok is and how fast it happens, if they would leave us alone, our guys estimated that my follower base would be somewhere in the ballparks of 4.5 to 5 million, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's a powerful that says a lot. So there's a concerted effort among a group of content creators, and we've been able to isolate a number of those.
One second.
Okay.
Cramer, Tim Cramer. This is Matt Stevens.
Hey man,
this is
I've
Tim.
seen you before. I've seen your face.
Hey Tim, how's it going, man?
Great. How you doing?
I'm doing well.
Tim, just to catch you up, we're talking about how bad TikTok is when it comes to censorship, and Cramer you were just going over how large your channel would be if they hadn't stepped in.
Yeah, it was estimated, our group has estimated that if they would just leave me alone, my base would be somewhere in the ballparks of 4.5 to 5 million followers.
Wow.
Right. So I was saying before you came on is that my first video is still out there. That's the beauty of TikTok as well. They ban you and your account, but your content stays there and lives on forever. And if you go back in and you search an old account, right, or you search just a base name, you'll find your content up there. And so we hired a group that came in and looked at that, and we tried to find out or extrapolate what we believed the impact was, and what kind of impact the message. And again, it's not me. There's a group of us. I'm just the face of it because I'm the best speaker out of all of us. With that being said, is that we've seen that one video, the first video that I ever did, is still out there. You'll see it pop up from time to time. It's had over 500 million views, but my views worldwide is over 4.2 billion.
Wow.
With a B. So with that, making that kind of impact, we track everything. So everything that I do, every message that I put out, every website that we build or we develop, we've got tracking mechanisms in place to be able to make sure what the impact is. And that's what's interesting, is that we can see things pop up from point to point. So we did a program against Unilever, because Unilever owns Ben & Jerry's. Ben & Jerry's is doing BDS, which is it's called boycott, divest, and sanction. It's illegal for U.S. companies to do to anything in Israel. And so we're working on that that's a program that I'm working on right now. Well, we put up videos about that on TikTok, pointed it to a website. Within 12 hours, we had over 400,000 hits on that site, but they were all denial of service hits.
Oh, man.
And they came from Sydney, Australia, which is the Australian headquarters of Unilever. So that's how we know we're making an impact. We track all of that. So to answer your question, Alan, yes, it's a concerted effort. We've figured out how the trolls on TikTok, a lot of them work, and what their strategy is. And I'm sure you've seen it. If you have an account that pops up, if they have no picture in their icon, right? And I've got an intern that does this. I don't do it anymore. Somebody else does it for me. But anyone who doesn't have a picture in their icon, they're booted automatically. Gone. Sorry. If you can't take time to show your face, you can't comment, and you can't see my shit, you got to go. That's one.
I like it.
The second one is if you've got an image in there, but you've got a series of names, and like your name is Bob Simpson 125928. Nobody names themselves that. They change that. A person would change that. So we figured that that's a bot developing that setup. They'll have a picture, right? But then we look at their followers, how many people they're following, and who's following them. And here's what's interesting. It's always 8 to 12%, meaning they followed 1,000 people, right? And they'll have 80 followers. They'll have 120 followers, somewhere in that range. You go in and you look at their followers, and their followers are all bot accounts. It's girls that don't have hardly any clothes on. They'll have one picture, follow my bio, or the account is private. Then we look at the private accounts where they've been set up private. We found one troll that had 48 different accounts set up underneath them, and each of those had 40 to 50 accounts set up to it. So do the math on that, right? Then they take that, they run a script, and all of those devices they've got set up go mass report you like that. Because none of those accounts will never be banned, ever, because they don't have any content. And all they do is
can't be reported.
That's all they do. That's the only role that they play. So we go and try and weed those out as much as possible. And what's interesting is that we've blocked a number of different real users on the left. And they, of course, say, well, you don't have the balls to debate me. You don't have the balls to say this or do that. And then they go after me personally. We've got a case that's happening right now. This new case is a defamation case. It will be in the next few weeks. By this time next week, everyone on social media will be aware of this one particular person because of what they've done and said. So my approach is we're doing everything legal. My approach is that you just have to make one person the sacrificial lamb, and then others start to back off. This isn't just going to be getting somebody kicked off of a platform. They're going to lose their job. I'm suing for defamation with malice because I blocked them every fucking time they showed up. Every account that I've ever created, there's a group of people that I go through and block immediately.
Wow.
Right. So when I do that, that's me taking the first step to not have a problem with them. They go around the system and out of their way to go get my content and then go after me. And listen, if you attack me personally and you attack my ideas, knock yourselves out. Right. But when you come after me and my business, my family, or threaten me, then it's no holds barred.
Right.
I come at you with all the force I have. And I keep telling people I have unlimited resources. You can't stop me because
you're saying you have unlimited resources because of
finances.
That's awesome. So basically, is the you can't fire me thing. That's what I think. That's what I think people need to understand. Is like Mark, the other person that's on here. This is really his podcast that he's brought us on. Mark recently turned down Kroger. To distribute one of his bars, basically. Yep. Millions of dollars. I mean, literally turned down millions and millions of dollars in sales yearly because they're mandating vaccines on their employees.
Yep.
And people are losing their mind. Like, why can you turn down, how can you turn down business? He was like, well, I can't be canceled. Like, that's another reason why he stood up. He's one of the very few people at the very beginning. Like, they've been canceling me for years. So what you're going to do, make me poorer? It's not going to fucking negatively affect me that much. But like, I mean, it's going to take a few people that have resources to stand up. I mean, to say, you know, fuck it, like, don't like me. Because that's the power. Like, people don't understand. Their power is paper thin. Their power is that they're going to say that you're a racist, or they're going to say that they don't like you, or they're going to say you're a homophobe. Like, at some point, yeah, that's what
I mean. Once you say it, where do you go from that?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. That's what we do on like and what now? Like, like I've had people like, oh, so you're just toxically masculine. Okay, I'm fucking real good with that actually.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like you know, trust on it because to me, with toxically masculine means something different. Like, it's not the womanizing thing. Like, we're big believers. Like, my toxic masculinity is the fact that, like, my wife is my best friend. Like, I spend 24 hours a fucking day with her.
Yep.
Like if somebody would come at my wife, I would dismantle them and their entire fucking families. You know what I mean? Like you know, don't like, to me, a real man is somebody that takes care of his wife, his children, his friends. Like, I mean, my friend circle is like my family too. You know, like, and if people don't like that, if people think that it's toxically masculine to say, like, I will react viscerally, like me and Mark have been friends a while. We've been friends and we didn't like each other, and we were friends, we did like each other. But I tell you this, man, in the last 2 years, like, I've gotten to the point now where I get way more pissed off when people go at him than he gets. Like, he's just like, fuck it. You know what I mean? Like, I get fucking mad. Like, I want to fucking burn their house down. Like, figuratively, I got to say that figuratively, I want to burn their house down. You know, like.
Well, see, and that's the difference, right? Is that this toxic masculinity thing has made way for toxic femininity.
Yeah.
Right. So look at the movies here recently. They're unrealistic. They're trying to portray women as powerful and as strong as men. And you'll have a woman come into a room. She's the hero. She walks into a room. There's 6 guys, and none of them can knock her the fuck out. Really? So there's this false sense that they're portraying that that women are capable of doing things they're not capable of doing. It's fantasy. So, okay, it's a movie, it's fantasy. But then they move that into everything else, right? And that's the new mantra, is that men are toxic. Well, wait a minute. Women are toxic too. And the reason I can say that is that when I was in high school and college, I didn't hang around with dudes. And I'm going to be real blunt. The reason I didn't hang around with dudes is because women had all the pussy. I I mean, that's crass, but that's what I did. And so
it's actually different. It's actually not said to be different now, but so.
Well, my point is that I hung around with women. And so I got really good at understanding how women think. They're far dirtier. There's so many things that women are far over the level of what men are, right? Mm-hmm. I'll give you an example. We could go out to have a drink and be fucking around, and I would say something negative about you and your outfit, and you guys would both laugh about it, right? And go, yeah. and then 10 minutes later, you're doing something about me, about your big nose, Cramer, right? Or your little dick, whatever the burn is. Guys do that. That's how they become closer. Women don't do that. Mm-mm. Women will say things about each other behind each other's backs, right? And then talk nice to their face. Guys generally don't do that. Real men don't do that. I just had an issue with a person that was on social media that had made some statements about me behind my back. And the next time he called and acted like a friend, the first thing out of my mouth is, "What the fuck are you doing saying what you're saying?" Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, before we went any further, that type of mentality is lacking in our culture today, right? Mm-hmm. Of holding people accountable for what they do and say. And when you do that, the first thing he did was, and then all of a sudden I told him he's running for office. And I told him, I said, you don't deserve to be a politician. You don't have the backbone that it takes to serve the people that you're telling them you're going to serve.
You're right.
Because if somebody did that to me, if I had said something about somebody and they called me up and they called me on the carpet and they started screaming and yelling at me, dude, I'll talk to you when you settle down. Click. But he didn't do that. He just kept taking it.
Yeah.
That's not a man. I'm sorry. It's just not. So I think that our country, that's what it's lacking. And if you look at on social media, if you look at the men that are promoted, it's effeminate men that are promoted. You don't see the big strong men that are being promoted by these platforms. It's young boys dancing and dressing like girls. There's a video today where a guy came out and said that, men are supposed to be subservient. To who? to women? Other men? Fuck that.
Yeah, I mean the toxicity I think is coming from both sides. For women, it's mostly the lack of femininity, and for men, it's the lack of masculinity. When you have, and it's all based out of fear. I think that men are insecure and they don't want to have to hold themselves to that high standard of what masculinity is defined as. And then for women, the fear comes from not being comfortable or secure enough in themselves to submit to a man or to admit that, hey, I would like to find a worthy man to submit to. And so,
you know what? When you say submit, that's a dangerous word, right? When you say submit, because feminist will say, you should never submit, right? Here's the thing, is that I've been married for 34 years. We've had our ups and downs, but we've stayed together because of one thing. I'm the boss on the days she's not, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Right? That
Absolutely.
process is what works. And it's submission on certain things. She controls certain things in our relationship. I don't care. Right? I control things in our relationship that she doesn't care about, has no interest in. And that's what makes the relationship work. The problem that I have, Matt, I think to your point, is that we have to look at gender and gender roles, that they are the way they are for a reason. Yeah. And I'm going to say something that's going to piss a lot of people off once this is said.
That's what we do. That's what we do. So
the patriarchy is designed specifically to allow the matriarchy to exist.
Yes.
Not the other way around.
Right.
We have to protect those who are the ones who reproduce us. That's our job. Now, women may not like that, right? But they can't do it without us and do it 100% effective. Now, when I say that, we can't do it without them 100% effective either. Well, it is a two-way street.
And that's the thing too, is, they talk about masculinity. One of the main characteristics of masculinity, of course, is strength. And, if you're thinking from like a binary standpoint of femininity being the opposite of masculinity, which it is, then you'd probably assume that femininity means that it's weak. But I've come to realize that it's actually not. It's
strong.
it's a different kind of strength.
Yep.
There's masculine strength and there's feminine strength, but it takes a woman who is secure and strong enough in herself to submit to a man. It's these women that are afraid to submit, that are lonely, that are career women, and they're sitting there at 30, 40, however old they are, wondering, like, why don't I have a family? Why don't I have a man? And things like that. And so they let their fear get the best of them.
Yeah.
And it's when women embrace their role and embrace their femininity that they're happiest. I mean, the happiest women I've seen.
And I'm going to go back and say, and that's a two-way street. When men relent and submit at the same way, that's where it works. If you're always trying to one-up each other, it'll never happen. If you're always trying to be the boss, it'll never happen.
Right.
When you look at it, who's really the boss of the house, grandma or grandpa? It's normally grandma. Like grandma normally is the like my wife is the cornerstone of my family. I can guarantee it. But you know what my job is? I will fucking destroy anybody that comes at her.
Yep.
Like we've talked about it on plenty of podcasts already. Like if you look at how Matt and I are built, especially Matt, and how I was built when I was younger. But if you look at how we're built, like I'm genetically predisposed to create war. I have broad shoulders. I'm fucking strong as an ox. I'm a great athlete, and like I have obviously taken plenty of punches to the face. Like plenty, right? Like can I reproduce a child? No. Like I can make a baby, but I can't carry a baby. I can't nourish the baby. I can't that is our life. That is our species, right? Like that is the important shit, right? Like to me. Like a man's role is to protect women. That because, and this is no shit. I think one of the things that we've had wrong in society is like we're thinking that equality means that women should be fighting alongside men in war, and I think that's fucking moronic.
That's not
because
equality.
that endangers everybody.
Yep.
But I do think that we should have a lot more women in leadership roles in government because they tend to be less irrational.
Yeah, I disagree. I'm going to go on a limb here,
some women.
But the same thing as some men. I hear you. But go ahead, Cramer.
And you're right. Let me clarify that. I've worked in corporate America since I was 16 years old. My broadcast career took off from 16, so I've seen the migration of women into the workforce, and it changed the dynamics of how we do business to the point where it's now less beneficial to have more women involved. And when I say that, it's not against women. It's the way that women think. Women are more risk averse. They have to be. It's ingrained in their DNA. They have to be less risk averse because if mommy goes out and does something stupid and doesn't come home to take care of the cubs die. Right? Daddy goes out and he does the same exact thing. He doesn't come home. The cubs still get taken care of and the species continues. Right. So when women come into business, what we've seen in our industry, we had more fucking fights. We had more fucking issues of drama inside the building. And it's what you and I were talking about when we first came on how guys deal with each other versus women, that will make fun of each other's asses. But a woman says something about another woman's ass. Oh my God. It's like the whole world comes to an end. And again, we're talking in generalities here. It's not all women and they're not all the same. But what you find is, and look at what's happened in politics with the addition of these young females in Congress in the last 10 years. What's happened? It's become more vitriolic. It's become
I'm going to argue that you cannot look at our politics in the last 10 years because our politics in the last 10 years, they're not actually people representing people. They're kind of figureheads that are propped up. Like they're not by the people for the people. It's like the average person cannot just decide to run for Congress and in any way win.
That's true to an extent. I think it's changing back. We're seeing it. I'm not running this cycle. I'm not running this time, but I will run in 24 and I will win in Indiana.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Do you know
Indiana
why?
needs it. So.
Because I'm toxic. I'm a toxic.
Yeah.
The reason. Let me explain the reason I'm running. I don't know where this is all seen at, but I was fired by the Republican Party after working for them for 12 years, I got fired in 2020 because I spoke out against the governor, Eric Holcomb, and the lockdown. Now, they thought initially what they said is when they called me and told me, we were in the middle of the 2020 cycle. This is right before November, 6 weeks before November. And they told me I needed to shut my mouth or I was going to get fired. The moment they said that, I'm old enough to realize you threaten me with my job, I've already lost it.
Yeah.
They needed me to finish the cycle. Once the cycle was over, they no longer needed me. So I said that point blank. This chick named Marin. I said, Marin, are you threatening me? She goes, no. I said, well, it sounds like a threat. I'm going to assume it's a threat. So I'm going to take that threat and I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. You've now made me talk louder because I assume I've already lost the job, the business. So you didn't stop me. You made me go louder. And that's what we have to do. That's what people don't do anymore. They're so afraid. Again, like I said, being able to walk away from something and say, listen, I was raised poor, extremely poor. I mean, like when we didn't have food in the house type poor. My dad's a minister or was a minister. I learned to live with inside that. I've made millions of dollars. It hasn't changed who I am or what I do. I still like the same, a grilled cheese sandwich with dill pickles. That's a luxury because we didn't have that when I was a kid. Right? I don't need my cell phone. I don't need my sports car. I don't need my, 6,000, 7,000 square foot home. I don't need that stuff. It's nice. And when you're willing to walk away from that, that gives you the power. And that's what most people aren't willing to do. They just aren't.
That's a great point that you make there because that's the whole point Mark was making with backing out of the Kroger deal. All these people are greedy and they're so afraid that they're going to lose business and things like that. Because they value the dollar more than they value their morals and their principles.
Right.
But here's the thing is, Mark has had so many people reach out to him and say, hey, look, I just bought, 10 boxes of your bars, and they're customers for life because of what he did. And so really, in the long run, I think it's going to pay off for him much more than what the Kroger deal would have gotten him. Potentially, but also could open the doors for other things. Right. But you're right. It's not being able to stand up. It's being scared and not speaking your mind when something needs to be said.
Well, Cramer, are you going to run as a Republican or independent?
A Republican. The independent thing. Let me put it this way: Are Democrats perfect? Nope. Is their institution perfect? Nope. Is the GOP perfect? Nope. Is the institution perfect? Nope. Now, let's go to the independents. Everybody says, well, that's the solution. Have you talked to them? They're less organized. They're more crazy. And when I say that, I'm talking about some insane individuals that I've talked to. So in a system that is unlikely to win, I want to win, right? You can't make a difference if you don't fucking win.
Right.
And so you've got to win first. So the infrastructure is there. Here's the thing, is that I have spent the last 40 years of my life doing favors for people and never calling them back, never calling in those chits. That is over. So when I call a billionaire or a millionaire and I say, listen, I need $10,000 a month for this project, they've signed those checks because of what I've done over the last 40 years. That is going to happen in the state of Indiana. And it's not just here. I'm working with a candidate in Nevada, Tom Heck, who's running for governor. I'm his key strategist on how to get him elected. We're doing everything so differently than what everybody else in the state is doing. They're already spending all their money. We haven't spent a dime, not a dime of his money yet.
So let me kind of take it back to the beginning because I don't know where the conversation started or anything like that. But how did this whole TikTok escapade get started? Like what was behind it? What was the reasoning? And did it start on TikTok or was it on different social media platforms as well?
For what I'm doing currently,
right?
It started out as a fluke. I was telling Alan that I got a buddy of mine sent me a dog video. some stupid video, and I watched it. I've been in advertising and marketing for the last 25 years, and so I saw it as an opportunity when I started going through and seeing what the content was, right? And I started searching through. I created 3 accounts relatively quickly, and each account I set up differently with different likes to see what it would feed me. And when I realized what the power of TikTok was, I go, this is pretty cool. So I made 2 videos. The first 2 videos that I made were me and my granddaughters playing around with the filters. They never even got published. It was just in the drafts. The third video that I made was one, you may have seen it, where I talk about, it's the first video that I did where I talked about they've removed all the faces of color off of advertising. And everybody thinks it's for virtue signaling of how woke they are. And what it was an advertising campaign to introduce millennials who are not buying those products to those products. And they did it through wokeness. Well, that video went viral. That was the first one I did. It's still out there, over 500 million views. And so that process started it. I didn't know the rules of TikTok. I didn't know all the censorship. And so I jump on, and within a month, I think I had 40 or 50,000 followers. And I was going, hey, yeah, this is pretty cool. Yeah. And then the pedophiles came out, and I reported the pedophiles. Now, here's the thing. I live in an affluent neighborhood, and the assistant director to the FBI field office in Indianapolis lived down the street from me. So when I saw what was happening on this account, I went down and talked to him about it, and he goes, we're already aware of this issue.
Wow.
I kept reporting it on TikTok. And if you've ever reported anybody on TikTok, right, you know that there's this process. You click it, it says, thank you for your submission. We'll let you know when we come up with something. No matter how many times I hit that button on that particular account, it would not go to that next screen. So then we knew something was fucked up with TikTok. That's somebody
something's very fucked
running
up
that shit.
Like,
that's the only way that happens.
I'll search my video library, on whatever channel I'm on that day. But I'll search my video library, and all of a sudden I'll have like 3 or 4 new like content violation videos.
Yep.
That they've never notified me about.
Nope.
Like I got a notification the other day. We've reviewed your video, and I'm like, I didn't know I had a fucking video need to be reviewed. Like, what the fuck?
That's why I don't even feel them anymore. I say fine. I just get rid of it and move on to the next thing, because they're going to count it against you anyway, and those flags never roll off. So here's the other thing. We have access to the TikTok source code. So we know how it works. It's not a secret. So with that being the case, it changes the dynamics on how we work. What we realized was, and you've seen me do it time and time again, I get banned, and as soon as I get banned, I come right back up, and now it goes from 100,000 followers to 0, and then back up to 30 or 40,000 within just a few days.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The reason that happens, and again, we it's how we approach it, is that we've built a network of people that as soon as I go down, they never do anything. They're very calm with their accounts, and their primary job is to push mine back up. We utilize the system against them. That's how I get back on the FYP page so fast.
Yeah.
So
something I've talked about before. Oh, go ahead.
What I was going to say is to answer your question. It was a fluke as far as everything else. When I saw what the power of TikTok was, we started looking at the analytics on the backside. And that's what we got really excited about. I don't know if you ever looked at your analytics, if you're doing that. Mm-hmm. Okay. Are you doing it, Matt?
I haven't checked them out yet. I've only got on TikTok recently, so
okay. So you have to engage it. You have to set it up on the back end of the site. It's under the creator tools, right. And when you set that up, it allows you to see what your metrics are, how many views you're getting on a video, or where the views are coming from, what percentage is coming from the FYP. Mm-hmm. That really tells you if you're shadow banned. So what we started looking at was that all of a sudden my videos went from 97% FYP to 3% FYP. Hmm. Well, then that makes that account ineffective for what we want to do. So we say, screw it. We'd either burn it to the ground, right? Or we just abandon it and start a new one. And that was the first stage. Second stage was building a network of fellow TikTokers that will never post anything. They'll never have a violation themselves, but they have the ability to promote your channel. Right. Mm-hmm. So when you've got 1,000 people that are on a list that you can call and say, hey, can you do me a favor? And all of a sudden, you've seen it happen, right? Is that my account pops back up. I alert people that I'm on, and then within an hour, I've got 7,000 followers. Well, that's not just because of TikTok. We're leveraging what TikTok does. and the
Right.
benefits of what TikTok has, right? When we realized the power of what it did, we started going to think tanks and groups with an agenda or a message, and said, how can we utilize this capability to be able to spread our word nationally very quickly, much faster than you can do on Facebook. Facebook, you're just yelling at your friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
TikTok or Twitter, where it's really hard to grow organically anymore. When I got kicked off of Twitter initially, I had over 15,000 followers there, and would routinely have tweets that were 100,000, 200,000 views. I don't even worry about Twitter anymore. It's an afterthought. We post stuff there, but that's not even. TikTok right now is the solution for what we're doing because we can spread a message so quickly.
Wow.
So that's kind of how it started. And then I said, well, how do we leverage this to be able to spread message of the word that we want to get out? And that's what the process has been. So that's kind of from A to Z, what the growth has been. And we see it again changing. We think that there's going to be a major shift in the way the AI works and the algorithms work on TikTok after the beginning of the year. But
I would agree.
That may or may not come to fruition.
The thing that I've always pointed out is without the shadow bans, without the clear suppression, it is very clear to me who's like what the majority of people feel and want.
Oh yeah.
Like when you take a strong look at it, all the number one song, like four of the top 10 number one songs for a while were literally "Fuck Joe Biden." We grew up at a time where our music represented our thoughts of society. Like that's how groups like NWA came about. That's how rap music became about. Before it was all about money and hoes. You know what I mean? Yep. When it was actually about street life and that sort of stuff. And I think that that's like the case now. I think it's almost like a renaissance period for stuff like that, where there's a very clear message that the overlords basically want you to think this way, be this way, do this way. But I say this all the time because I have a similar situation on TikTok going on where I get banned fairly often, and anytime and I don't this is not to toot my own horn, but I have a unique way of delivering certain things, and I have a very Gen X type of humor where I have very dry, very, very, very dry, sarcastic humor. I'm a very, I'm like, to me, sarcasm is kind of like an art form.
It is.
And I have no problem catching engagement on almost any social media platform when I'm not being suppressed. It has never been an issue, but you can then tell when I'm clearly being suppressed. Like YouTube, and this is not an excuse, because I started as soon as YouTube made it okay to ban the words of world-renowned scientists, I stopped giving a fuck about them. You know what I mean? But you can clearly tell that all of my videos right now have 95 to 99% approval ratings, and they're not getting any notifications sent out. And every time I post a video, it's an automatic 200 lost subscribers, right? Yep. Well, if I was pissing off that many people, I can guarantee you that I'd have more dislikes than likes. You know what I mean? It's the same thing on TikTok, where I say a few things just in how I talk. It catches on, and then all of a sudden the channel goes to blow up. It gets caught in their algorithm, and then they slam the door on it and delete the channel. I mean, I'm talking they don't even get a notification, your channel's just been permanently deleted. And it's happened 3 or 4 times, to the point where it's people keep saying, keep looking for your new channel on your on the FYP page. So it's a very similar situation. So it's this group of people that know to look for you. It's not the channel, and it's not the content, it's the message. It's literally what we stand for in what we do. And to me, that is a marker of it's almost desperation. TikTok, I agree with you. I mean, and TikTok to me, and I explained it to Matt and Mark like this. Because Mark taught me how to use Twitter. I fucking hated Twitter. I was a YouTube guy and Instagram guy. Well, Instagram hell hates me. They fucking hell hate me. They do not like me at all whatsoever. And YouTube is obviously very, very, very biased, and you almost have to dance around how you say stuff. They openly oftentimes ban delete videos from Rand Paul, from sitting Congress people. They're not a free speech platform, right? But for TikTok, it's like basically Twitter with video. Like a stitch is is almost like
Well, it's either a quote.
comment.
It's either a quoted tweet or a retweet, right? It's
Right,
a
and a duet's a retweet, and a stitch is a quoted tweet, you know, and then you have your own content. So it's I caught onto it very quickly, and I talk really fast, and my humor is kind of very adept to being under 3 minutes.
Were you a class clown in school, or were you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes,
I was a class clown. Yeah. And but I got knocked on a lot on YouTube. People are like, you should slow down so you can have longer videos because you'd make more money for longer videos. And I'm like, this is how I fucking talk. Like, Matt's met me in person. This is not a character. Yep. Unfortunately, sometimes this is who the fuck I am. Yep. You know, like it really is. You know, and but I suited very well to TikTok then. The thing is, they're so openly biased. Like, I mean, and who they pick to be popular. Like, they got that fucking Modern Warrior dude. He's openly fucking racist. Mm-hmm. Like, just openly fucking racist. And he's 3 million some followers of young, impressionable kids too. Openly racist, calls every white person a colonizer. Like, he did the one video, like, I don't move for white people on a sidewalk. Like, if Matt or me were walking down the sidewalk, trust me, bitch, you'd fucking move.
You'd move. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like let's be straight up. Like, you know, out of me, Matt, and Mark, I'm the smallest one of us. Like, you'd fucking move. You know, like, and I wouldn't ask. The thing is, I would probably be courteous enough to get out of your fucking way and think you're rude because it's not worth it.
I'm that guy. Yeah. I give you more chances to be offensive than I'll ever be offensive to you. Yep. Right?
Yeah. Because here's my thing though. Because I know that if it's actual in life. Because we grew up at a time where if it is in life and somebody, like, why conflict? Because conflict to me isn't like we stand there and yell at each other. Conflict to me is somebody's taking some hits. You know, like, that's actual thing. So if you want to bump into me, I might even avoid it because it's not worth it. I mean, not to mention that, but like there's other scenarios where I live in Florida and I'm almost never not strapped and shit like that, where it's like I'm not gonna like fucking get into an argument with somebody. Like, it's just bad shit can fucking happen. And I really believe that that's one of the reasons why everybody should carry a weapon, because people will then think twice.
They'd be more polite. If everybody's got a gun, you'd be a lot more polite.
Oh yeah.
You know?
But I see how the algorithm is working on TikTok, and my wonderment is that there's several things. Like, and me and you were talking about it beforehand, but like, I wanted to bring up, you know, Trump is running his Truth Social coming up soon. Do you think that is going to be just another fucking circle jerk, where it's actually going to be, or do you think it's going to actually be like complete free speech, or do you think it's going to be another corporate circle jerk?
They won't be allowed. They won't be allowed on the platforms. Like, for example, they can't be on Apple devices without having some type of moderation system in place, right?
Right.
But I have to believe, knowing the people that are involved and the way that they're moving toward what they're moving toward, that it's going to be real moderation, right? Mm-hmm. Have you been on Gab at all?
Yeah,
I have. I fucking hate it.
Yeah, Gab is one of the most racist places you'll ever be, especially against Jews. They're very vocal about it. And so here's the thing, and this, if more people would just learn to do this, right? You block them. Mm-hmm. I just block them. I don't need to. It's no different than shutting my front door to somebody. They knock on the door and you go, hi, and they go, we want to talk to you about, and I go, not interested, click. I never have to talk to them again.
Exactly.
I let them in and crack the Bible open.
I do have a funny story about that. I used to sell insurance. So there was a period where for about a year and a half, I sold insurance, and our deal was I'd have to go door to door. And it was kind of a door to door deal. It was, we'd go to certain houses and that we knew we had set up appointments. But if something happened and they weren't there, we had to go to doors on either side, knock on their door, and at least introduce ourselves. So I did that for about a year and a half, and was really good at it. Right. And I get to a house on a Saturday afternoon. It was scheduled and it's running along, and the wife won't make the decision. The husband wants to do it. She doesn't want to do it. And finally he goes, well, we got to get up and go. And we're getting ready to go to church. And I said, okay, so church on a Saturday? I said, are you Jewish? He goes, no, we're Mormons. And I started laughing. And he goes, what's so funny? I go, imagine somebody showed up at your house and now they won't leave.
That's funny.
He didn't buy.
Yep. It's basically like, fuck off. But, I oftentimes say that, like, if we actually got back to true freedom of speech, the world would be a better place, because then people would know what each other actually thinks. Like this protection of people's feelings has just gotten out of fucking hand. Like, you don't want to hear racist talk. I'd rather know somebody's racist. I honestly,
exactly.
If you're going to show yourself to be a complete fucking racist, say the goddamn words. That way I know. You have, as far as I'm concerned, the person has, our Constitution lays out the rights that nature gives us to say what the fuck we want.
Yep.
And I would prefer them to say it. It's the same thing like this. Like I talk a lot about obesity and fat acceptance and stuff like that. It's my same thing as like telling a morbidly obese person that there's nothing wrong with them, that they're perfectly fine. Like telling a 400-pound person like it is mean. That is mean. Like you are, first of all, telling this person a lie that they know deep down is a lie. That you are telling them to feel better about yourself for telling them something that you think is going to make them feel better.
Look how virtuous I am.
Yes.
Nice. And not treating you like everybody else does. Like the fat fuck you are.
Yes, exactly. But I think it's the same thing for, like, we've got to the stage where I got into one thing. There was a thing on TikTok on one of my old accounts where people asked me about trans people. I'm like, I'll fucking call you whatever the fuck you ask me to, but if you make me guess, that's on you.
Yeah.
If you make me guess, and there's actually a viral video going on right now. But you failed in your presentation, so you've made me guess. And if I get it wrong, you're gonna have to fucking just be understanding for me. Because I'm not trying. If I was trying to be rude, you'd fucking know. Right. You'd absolutely know if I was trying to be rude.
Right. Well, see that's what it's come down to, right? Is that I'm supposed to understand your feelings and react to your feelings, but you have no responsibility to do the same for mine. Right. Right.
I just don't get it.
The person who cries first, and it's like Antifa. They crack me up. Fuck the popo. All cops are bastards until they get run over in the middle of the street. And the first person they call the cops, call 911. Right? So it reminds me, I've got this theory, guys, and it has not changed in 20 years. My theory is this: nothing changed since middle school. It's all the fucking same. The drama's still there. The football team is the NFL. The basketball team is the NBA. You've got the little sports. You've got the cool kids, right? They're all Hollywood. You've got the geeks that wanted to be in charge of everything, that ran for office at school. They're now in D.C. or your state capital, right? The games they played then, they never grew out of that shit. So if they were a fucking bully in 8th grade, they're a fucking bully today. They haven't changed. They never had to. It always worked for them, right?
Well, if they want...
Go ahead.
Or if they want revenge, now they're getting their revenge.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like bad cops. I'll give you an example of a bad cop in Indianapolis. And again, I've been in this market off and on for almost 40 years. So I'm fairly well known. I was at a nightclub with a buddy of mine who owned a nightclub, and we were walking from one nightclub to another. And a bartender from inside the building saw us coming down the street, walking towards her bar, told the cop to go out and fuck with us. Now, it's all games, right? It was all games. Now, this cop didn't know who I was, and I didn't know who he was. And when we started to walk up to the bar, he stopped us and wanted to do a field sobriety test in Indianapolis on the street. And I went, get the fuck out of here. As soon as I said that, his demeanor changed. I had now questioned his authority.
Yep.
And he went from being joking around to now being a cop. And that's called color of law. Mm-hmm. I had done nothing wrong. He had no reason to stop me other than she had asked him to stop me. And when I said, no, I will not comply, he got dick. He turned 100% dick. Well, my personality is, when you turn dick and I'm in the right, I'm going to go even harder dick because I know my fucking rights. And I said, well, you might want to look at, and this is where being a dick in school, right? I was always the funny guy, is being a dick in school is I go, well, you might want to look up the 4th Amendment before you make your next step. And I hope your house is paid for, because if it isn't, you're going to lose it.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden she comes out, guys, settle down. But we were nose to nose. That's the thing, guys, is that if you do not comply, they'll always show their colors. And that's what's happening right now. That's what's happening in our culture right now. I'm going to tell a quick story. My dad he's a retired minister. But we moved all over the country. I went to 14 different schools. And I hated school so much that I was a really good student. Does that make sense? I hated school because it was always new. I was always having to learn new people's names, and we'd get in there, and just about the time you got your friends right, then boom, you got to move again. And there were times that for several years that I would move twice in 1 year. So we didn't have social media, and I was always the new kid. And what I learned very quickly was it's almost that prison life that when you walk in, and you're the new kid and the bully starts to fuck with you, if you don't smack him down the first fucking day, you're going to deal with him the rest of the time that you're there. Right? So I would rather take a fucking beating. I would rather you beat the shit out of me than have to put up with your shit. And so that's what I do. And I learned very quickly is that sometimes you didn't have to take on the bully. You had to take on the bully's assistant. Right. And if you watch the movie, The Christmas Story, right? What is it? Flea. I think that's his name. And Green Teeth and Flea. I think there was, I may have the names mixed up, but you get the idea is that the little guys that were surrounding the bully thought they had the same power that the bully had. And that's what we've got today. We've got a group of politicians, mainstream media pundits, celebrities that have given permission to the rest of the crowd to treat people in a certain way, and they're stepping up now thinking they have the justification to do and say anything they want because they've been given permission by the fucking bullies.
Right.
Right? And so now we've got a professor who just wrote that the First, Second, Fourth, Fifth, and Sixth Amendments need to either be abolished completely or watered down because they're written for the individual and not the community.
Yeah, but that's the fucking thing. It's individual rights.
That's the thing is these people don't realize like the smallest minority possible is the individual.
Yeah.
And they want to stick it for minorities.
That's a good point.
It's like the smallest minority you can get is an individual.
Yep.
Well, here's the thing. I see a lot of people that are very, very, very happy with groupthink because they think it empowers them to be part of that group. You know, and they have power in number. Like we're strong people. Like I mean, like I beat to my own drum. Yep. You know, like I'm a unique individual. I pride myself on being like the me. Like when I first started on YouTube, there was many people that wanted to take me under their wings, and I could have been the next this guy or the next that guy, and I was like, fuck that, I want to be the first Alan Roberts. You know what I mean? That's who I am, because I feel that I'm good with me. You know, like Matt's good with him. Like I'm gonna work on me.
Well, that's what my mentor. Well, that's what my oldest mentor told me when I got into broadcasting years ago. Is that he goes, man, just be yourself. Because I asked him, I said, what's the key? He goes, just be yourself. And so I go on the air, and the next thing you know, hey, everybody, my name is Tiny Tub. And he goes, do you talk like that in real life? I went, no. He goes, then don't do it on the air. Yeah. Be you. Yeah. Right? And
eventually our society rewards that, too. I'll even point to entertainment, because the people in entertainment that are more themselves than they are the character end up being the most popular. The Rock, Steve Austin, like the Shaquille O'Neal, Matthew McConaughey. Yeah. The people that end up where they allow themselves to be themselves, they end up having longevity and being real people and seen as real people. When you have people that play a character like I think Robert De Niro is a completely fake human being.
Oh yeah.
Like I think he is a mix mash of all the characters he's ever played, and he has completely bought into them. You know. Yep. Now here's my thing about Hollywood too. I'll watch any movie with any actor in it because I don't give a fuck what they've said politically. I don't care.
Entertainment.
I don't. They are there to entertain me. Dance monkey dance, because I don't fucking give a fuck what the person thinks. Like people, like I love poking fun of Alyssa Milano, but I'm still gonna watch Who's the Boss. You know why? Because that's the only thing. Like I know her for pretending to be somebody else. Why would I listen to her fucking words about fucking stupid shit? Like. Don't forget Keanu. Keanu Reeves is another one. Keanu Reeves is apparently a very wholesome, great human being. You know what I mean? I think that they kind of fit his parts to match his actual personality a little bit because that's who he fucking is. But I think society has reached a stage where most people live in such a fucking fantasy land that they realized that they could no longer be the person. Like they actually couldn't they couldn't eventually be the Rock. Like for fucking years and battle tests. I can't tell you how many people came to me and be like, "Man, I gained like 20 pounds of fat because I tried the Rock diet." Like, motherfucker, it's because you're not the goddamn Rock.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I mean, like you can't eat 10,000 calories a day and fucking not work out the way he is, have his genes and his other juicy vitamins, and fucking, and be him.
That's partly why those people do so well, is because when they see someone who's comfortable in their own skin, it inspires people, because a lot of people don't feel comfortable in their own skin. Yeah. And so when they see that, they appreciate that, because they're like, okay, well, I wish I could be that comfortable in my own skin. But to your point earlier, Tim, I mean, people are just getting tired of the superficiality. They're tired of it. They want truth. They want people who are real with them. And
consistency.
That's what consistency. That's what people are craving nowadays. They don't like. They're getting tired of the crap, what we're being told to think, and they realize that's what it is now. More and more people are beginning to realize that, and so they do crave, something that's different. Something that's authentic, something that's raw. And so if you can give that to them, they'll appreciate you for it. And I feel like that's what a lot of these people are doing. They're just so authentic. They're so real with themselves, and so they're so forthcoming that, I mean, like, I guess by definition, you cannot fake authenticity, and so like there's something to that, and people appreciate that.
Well, that's what, again, I toot my own horn very rarely, but when I'm tooting this horn, it's a life lesson, right? I've had the benefit of being in broadcast and media at the highest levels, and being able to be at those parties. The parties that you see in the movies where you walk in Hollywood and there's a table with a big pile of Coke on it, right, and pills everywhere. I've been there. I've been a part of that scene.
I'll be right back, guys.
Okay. And that stuff happens. Yeah. The stuff that we've heard about Ghislaine Maxwell, I've never been a part of it. I've never seen it take place, but I know it was available, because anything you wanted was made available to you. Yeah. Anything, whatever you asked, right? I've had the opportunity to party with well, not party with, but work with Ted Nugent on a couple different occasions. But party with Metallica, party with Aerosmith, party with Jackson,
awesome.
Party with all these groups from the 80s and 90s. And what's funny about it is the reason I could be me was because I learned that by being me, they always knew what to expect. And if they didn't like the real me, then there was no fake me that I had to pretend. That was it. And the thing is that most people at a certain level stop being fanboys. I mean, it's like when I see somebody like Alan's work, or I look at it and go, yeah, I like the style, I like the approach. I go, that's talent, right? It's not competition to me. I don't look at what Alan does as competition to me, or any other creator that I see as competition to what I'm doing. Right. You know why? Because they can't fucking be me.
Right.
And I can't be them. In the voice work that I do, I do voiceovers for movies. I mean, I'm everywhere. That's why I keep saying you can't fire me, because I'm so entrenched in so many businesses, and I own so many businesses myself, that it doesn't affect me. My point is that with all of that, I can still be me. That when I met up with a bunch of it was an impromptu thing up in Portage, Indiana a few weeks ago, where when I walked up, people recognized my voice before they recognized my face.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I do the black and white thing. And I wear glasses. I don't wear glasses. Those are glasses for me to be able to see the controls on the phone, because it's so fucking close to my face.
No kidding.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that it makes it so much easier. And, I lived a big part of my life just trying to put up a facade, trying to impress people and whatnot. And, there's a lot of trauma that's associated with that, is what I realized. And insecurities and things like that you just have to overcome and own. in order to feel comfortable in your skin. But once you actually do, like, I've never felt more comfortable in my skin here in the last year or so than I do, or at least that I do now, ever before. And I like part of what I do is like I want people to feel that way. It's so liberating.
The security?
Yes, the security is so liberating. Like, I enjoy life. I appreciate everything that I have. I don't have very much material wealth, but man, I'm happy. Like, I've got a lot of stuff.
I got chills on what you just said, because it's interesting that the things that I realized early on in my career that really helped me propel myself were two things. And it sounds like you're saying the exact same thing in a different way. When I stopped caring about what I thought other people thought about me, they didn't say anything. It was what I assumed they thought, because I didn't have the right clothes, or I didn't have the right haircut, or I didn't have the right suit, or I did whatever it was, right? That material stuff. I thought they thought less of me because of what I didn't have.
Yeah.
So when and it took years for me to realize this, but when I finally realized that part, that I was inflicting my own pain on my own psyche because of what I thought they thought.
It's projection.
It is.
Because when you, like, here's the thing is, like, for instance, if you don't think that you look good in a suit or whatever, you automatically think that everyone else thinks that you don't look good in that suit. Well, you really don't know what they're thinking, but you just project that onto them. That's,
because that's what you would think of somebody else.
Yes,
right.
Exactly. It's tough to get out of that. It really is tough to get out of that. Then you have, like, imposter syndrome and all this stuff, but no, like, seriously, it's just my life here in the last year and a half has just been so tremendously better, because I've grown into it. It's just not like a flip a switch or anything like that. But man, what a big difference. And that's the thing too, is, like, I noticed as well, like, as I began to mature, I wanted to hear the authenticity. I wanted to hear the rawness in people, and I wanted to hear about you and your true story and everything like that. I don't want a facade when I talk to anybody. And so, like, since I wanted that in other people's, it's like, okay, well, I got to give that myself. Mm-hmm. And so you got to give respect to get it,
I think that's a huge problem in social media, though, too. Like Cramer, I'm sure you don't do this, but I'm sure you don't take money from TikTok. Right?
No,
you're not in their creative. They're not. No. You're not, because I've never even signed up for their creator fund.
I did initially, because I didn't know what it was. Right. On my very first account, I signed up, and I think I made $58, and they ripped it out of my hands.
Yeah. The problem is, and this happens on all social media, if you ask me, for many of the creators, is they chase that. Mm-hmm. So then they chase, instead of chasing the being authentic, instead of saying the shit that they actually want to say that comes across their mind, they hold their tongue and they say what will get them the clicks they need. Mm-hmm. That happened a shit ton in 2020. Like, one of the reasons Mark and I have been friends for years, and like I said, we were on and off friendship. And then in 2020, we both independently kind of took a chance on YouTube and said the shit that nobody was going to say. Like, what the fuck? This is ridiculous. Like, you're wearing a face decoration is going to do nothing but possibly spread it more. The shit that they're saying now on the news, it was the shit that I was literally saying. Like, this is no shit. One of my Instagram accounts was deleted because I called the masks facial decoration that did nothing because viruses traveled on aerosolized vapor. And like what the lady said on CNN the last 2 days.
Yep. Told you.
I lost me social media,
Do you know how I knew that face masks didn't do anything?
How's that?
The package they come in says they don't do anything.
Yeah. Not to mention, like,
there's a
I
lot.
I worked in healthcare for a long time. I was a healthcare executive before I did all this shit. And I used to teach a class on mask safety. And what told me it was all bullshit, like all of it was bullshit, was that they told people to wear these things that if you don't wear them properly, they are statistically shown to radically increase self-infection.
Yeah.
Like, radically.
Yep.
Yeah, I think they were designed to stop your saliva from being projected everywhere. But again, to your point, if you wear the same mask over and over again and you're touching it and whatnot, you're just hurting yourself. And so I see why they wanted to implement that, but it's more of a negative than it is a positive, just because of the reuse of different masks and everything like that. It's just not healthy.
Well, that's the thing. I did a video a couple days ago about asking the question why, right?
Yep.
Explain to me why. Well, because I said so. That's not a reason. That's not strong enough for me. You've got to do something more, because that's authoritative. That's not a reason, right? That's your authority. You'll do it because I said so. The question why should be asked a lot, and it's not. When Fauci says something, or you know what, it's when any of these experts, and I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. Trump said, go get the virus or go get the vaccine. Why? Well, I think it's safe. Okay. I'm not doing it because I don't give a shit what you think. And here's the thing, and I've been trying to get into this point, and I finally got the wording down, is that if you don't ask why, you're a sheep. Sheep don't ask why. They just follow blindly, right? The person who asks why is the one you want to be talking to. Why do I have to do that? How does that work? Why does it work? You know, why have we been doing it this way? And that right there is what I think that people have to back to your point, you have to have security within yourself to stand up and ask that question.
Yeah, and you also have to realize that what you tolerate, you invite more of what you tolerate.
Yep.
And so by complying and allowing them to, I guess, invade on your rights and things like that, you're asking them to do it more.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, at what point do you say no more? You know, the sooner you do it, the easier it's going to be.
Now I'm going to ask you
for many reasons, though. Realistically, though, just to talk about the why thing, because I saw that video, I thought it was brilliant, by the way. Because I've said similar things multiple times about this. If I ask why I should take this jab, and it cannot be answered, and I ask if I continually ask why, and they cannot definitively tell me why to the point where they have answered answered me, I do not have informed consent. Like if I still have question, I legally do not have informed consent. And I would argue that is a huge, we do not have anybody that has received this that has informed consent. This is a massive crime against humanity.
Yep.
Because you can, especially the fact that people are being coerced. That's why the whole system needs to go. Like the healthcare system that we know right now needs to be gone. People are. It is bought and paid for by the pharmaceutical industry.
Yep.
Like technically, somehow, some fucking 350 fucking pound dude can tell me I'm not healthy and I need to do what I need to do something. I need to do something for his health.
To him. You're a danger to him.
We have it has dipped so far into insanity about this shit that nobody is even bothering with asking why. Like the 6 feet rule. The 6 feet rule. I said, where'd you get that from? Like immediately, where, why? Arbitrary. Tell me how 6 feet. It's like, is that the distance spit can travel? Because that doesn't matter at all. Nope. Like there were so many arbitrary things that just didn't make sense. That the question why would have answered. Now, you were going to ask a question. What was it going to be?
Well, the question is during this whole process, have either of you ever worn a mask? I have.
I did.
I had to. I had to fly one time.
I was one of the first who decided to take it off, though. I mean, I
wore mine to fly, but I've never owned one.
Yeah. 15 days. I was like, okay, I'll do whatever. 15 days is what we need to help. I'll do it. But once it became a month, and it just kept progressing on between there, and I saw the fear mongering and everything like that, I was like, okay, I think I see where this is headed.
Yep.
And
I wore mine on the plane to see my mom.
This is not ending anytime soon. So,
and that's where I said, right, is that when they said you have to wear a mask to enter a store, and I said, why? Well, because we want to keep everybody safe. Okay, then are we all wearing gloves as well?
Yeah, exactly.
Because everything in that store was getting touched, right? And I learned in kindergarten, the fastest way to transmit a disease from anything to anyone is with your fucking hands in your nose, your mouth, or your eyes. That's it. Yep. You keep these out of here, and you're going to be doing pretty good. You put something around there that you're doing this all the time to, right? And watch these politicians. They go up to a goddamn mic, and they talk this close to it. And then the other guy comes in and talks this close to it. Do you know the number one way that DJs spread disease with inside a radio station? The microphone.
Yeah.
That's how everybody, I had my own mic. When I walked into the studio, I unscrewed the one that was there, put mine on, right? And that was because I knew that thing right there I was going to touch more often than anything else in the studio. And if I was going to get sick in the cold and flu season, that's where it was going to happen.
Yeah.
The buttons on the console, right? I'd go in, take a little Lysol, spray it on, and this is only cold and flu season. I just wipe it across the buttons I was going to touch. That's fucking common sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
We learned that in kindergarten.
Common sense has been out the window.
Yeah. Well, because and back to Matt, it's the group think, right? Mm-hmm. Because they gather virtue from flocking together. Look at us. We're saving humanity. Wait a minute. You guys are all flocked together. Why the fuck are you so close together? Right? Or you saw Kamala Harris in the vehicle, put her fucking mask on. Then as soon as she stepped out, within 4 steps, took it off. It's fucking theater.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then calling him, I call it, calling out the king for wearing no clothes. Mm-hmm. Joe Biden goes up to the goddamn thing, right, the podium, touches it after everybody else has been up there, coughs, walks off stage without a mask, walks into the crowd and starts fucking shaking hands.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the lunacy of it all that when you call it out and then they censor you for it. And then that's what pisses me off.
The problem is that people can't see it for themselves. Yeah. Like, that's something that you noticed. Why isn't anybody else noticing that? Why isn't
I think a lot of people do. They just don't want to make we have such a generation of people that just don't want to make waves.
Yeah, they're scared.
They're scared people, and I don't get me wrong, I kind of fucking get it. But at the same time,
sorry,
you're living on your knees, like you're a slave. Like, I mean, these people need to accept, because I'm a huge advocate that at some point in time we got to consider a national divorce. Like the federal government has grown to such an extent that we either need to have a convention of the states and reboot that motherfucker, and I'm talking reboot it all the way back to the Constitution. Like, we need to strip away the ridiculous number of 3,000-page bills that most people don't even know.
Did you see that there's a 3,000-page? Okay, there's the Constitution, right? The Constitution is right at 7,000 words, and I just learned this the other day. But there's a document that is printed. What is that? All of the decisions of the Supreme Court and the secondary courts. There's a book with all of those citations of what those cases are and the decisions, right? So it doesn't give all the details. It just gives you this case. So you can quickly go through there and find a case that, I want to find about land grants or whatever it is, right? It's there. It's not the Constitution. It's their rulings on the Constitution. And when you go through and you start reading it and you find out how they've taken more and more and more, because taking more is easier if it's already been justified to take a little.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's precedent. That's why on May 13th of 2020, I was literally in Cozumel, Mexico, and I had just gotten back on the ship. We were on a cruise, and like a waitress was pouring tequila from the bottle, like into my wife's mouth and into my mouth and then into my son's mouth because he was with us, and I'm like hammered, and I read like. They're talking about 14 days of slow spread. Like, and we were the last ship to come back into the United States. Like, we almost had to stay out there and shit. And so I post on my community tab, my YouTube community tab, and my and Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. I don't think maybe not Twitter, but I think Facebook, because I wasn't even that big into Twitter then. But I was like, I'm seeing that there's people talking about like a curfew and shit like that. And I understand that people are very scared, but by all the data, it's showing that this is like elderly people and obese people. Like, so let's try to get healthy, wash your hands, avoid other people. If you're feeling sick, if you're sick, stay home. But the government's not my mama and I'm not 10. So fuck a curfew. They don't get to tell me what to do. We told them what to do. So, and people went, that was the catalyst for me to be canceled a lot of places. Because in my mind, I'm just fucking saying like, hey, just a reminder, like, I don't want people to die. And I was a baby killer. Like shortly after that, they're like, oh, so you don't care about elderly people. And I'm like, I got to tell you, like, just being in healthcare for like a dozen years, I actually wrote disaster policy on outbreaks and stuff like that for major counties in the United States. And, or I helped write. I didn't write myself, but I contributed to the policies for outbreak plans for like Allegheny County, Rochester, like all sorts of places. And these are the people that do the fucking dying. Like, I mean, like elderly people and very sick people. As a newsflash to those of you that aren't aware of it, they're the people that unfortunately pass away, especially from when they've got like anywhere from 4 to 8 other comorbidities and are probably on 12 medications. That like if they often die just from medical error. Like medical error kills 250 to 400,000 people a fucking year and has for decades, right? Yep. So people are tripping out. And people are like, well, 2.5 million people might die. I'm like, that sucks for them. I mean, I hate to even fucking say it, but like, you know, at no point in time should we give up freedom. And they're like, 2.5 million people might die. I'm like, that is, you know, less than we'll die if we have to fight to get these back.
Well, see,
like when you give up freedom, you give it away. You have to fight to get it back.
Here's what happens when people's voices are taken and they're not allowed to ask the question why. Or they're not allowed to ask detailed questions, right? Of getting to the next level of information. When that's not allowed, and they're conditioned now to, okay, well, I just won't ask. I'll sit here. I'll accept it because that's easier. That's what gets us to the situation. What we realized, my team realized from the get-go, was that we're in a meeting and I said, okay, let's find out how many people have actually died, and then let's start calling morticians. Let's start calling Batesville Casket Company is huge in southern Indiana. And so we called. And every month we'd call, is your business up? Is your business up? Is your business up? These were the metrics that we were looking at.
Wow.
If you've got more people dying, you've got more funerals. Because everybody said, well, they weren't allowing funerals to happen. No, they weren't happening at the same rate. Then where are the fucking bodies?
Exactly.
They should be stacked up somewhere, right? Where are they?
That, and you hear nurses like that are just talking about, my hospital's not busy. Like we have beds empty and whatnot. And so like where, you know,
let me explain the numbers and how they work this as well. Because what you'll always hear is a percentage, Matt. You'll always hear the ICU is 90% full, right? You've got a hospital in Indianapolis, and that hospital may have 3,000 rooms. Out of the 3,000 rooms, they may have 30 that are ICU-based rooms.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If 28 of those rooms are full, you're at 90% capacity. Yeah. That's 28 people. 28. Numbers are important, but the perspective of where those numbers come from and what they relate to are just as important. I'm going to tell you.
You know where the number 30 comes from in that equation? The number 30 in that equation comes from staffing levels.
Yep.
It does not come from actual available beds. They could have hundreds of available beds.
Exactly.
But if they only have enough staffing to meet the minimum staffing levels, the minimum staffing levels, I believe CMS's minimum staffing levels between 7 and 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. is something like one care person for every 7 residents for hospitals. Like, so in order for them to be considered fully staffed and not face fine or penalty, they have to have one care staff for every 7 patients.
Right.
Consistently, right, during those peak times. If they can't meet that staffing model, what they do is they lower the number of patients they can possibly have. So therefore, like I said it right at the very beginning, like, you know, we made an artificial crisis by demanding that these nurses and doctors, by the way, a huge portion of nurses and doctors very likely had already had T-cell immunity or some sort of ambient and natural immunity just from being exposed to the cold so many times that their immune systems were strong. The nurses and doctors that did die, because some of them absolutely did. It's unfortunate, but I will tell you this: hospital workers are some of the most unhealthy fucking people there is. It is horribly unhealthy to be a nurse. It is horrible. Nurses almost always end up with fused lower backs. Their lower lumbar back almost always has to have at least a fusion or two. Doctors normally have very poor posture and normally like they eat like shit. They're high stress individuals, so they're sickly people, and most of them smoke, drink, and a huge portion of them are obese. And
addicted to some form of feel good, whatever that is, right?
Yeah, I mean almost all of them, you know, because they try to mentally escape. And the reality of it is, when we got rid of these people that already had innate immunity, normally, you know, because they like, first of all, if people are risking their medical careers to not take something, and they're going to lose. they're going to lose every fucking thing. Now you have a guy over here, he's a doctor, he's going to end up making $1 billion because he's telling you to take something, and he's going to be propped up by society. Then you have this nurse over here who's got 3 kids who says, I'm not going to put that in my body if I don't have to live in a fucking cardboard box.
Yep.
I am trusting her.
Yep.
You know, like,
here's the thing is also, my mom's boyfriend is he's a part owner in a nursing travel agency. And he's said that his business has shot through the roof since this has all gone on. And basically the way that he says it is that these nurses that are getting forced to take the vaccine in hospitals in these blue states are basically becoming travel nurses and being sent to red states where they're not having to be forced to be vaccinated. So thank God that, for at least from my standpoint, living in Alabama, it's great because we don't tolerate a lot of stuff here.
Right.
Tennessee, Florida, Texas, where everybody seems to be going. I mean, it's just going to empower us even more. I mean, I don't think that people are going to move to these states and vote, in the way that, because they're moving away from what they
deem as tyranny.
Yeah, so they're not going to vote for that coming to the state. They're going to vote. They're probably awake enough now to realize, like, okay, this is bad. I mean, they moved.
Right.
So it just makes no sense to me. But
it's the same thing as what happened. Remember, we've heard this. We've heard this. The parties flipped back in the 70s, right? That the Southern strategy and the parties flipped. What we're seeing happen in real time now is a party flip happening, and you're seeing it happen through people moving from one state where they feel oppressed to a state where it's less oppressive or no oppression at all, right? When I was a kid, like I said, we moved all the time. We moved from Terre Haute, Indiana to Houston in the 70s because that's where the jobs were. Now imagine, you've got all of these conservatives that are moving from the Midwest into the South for jobs. And during that period, this is what cracks me up. Yes, the South became red. And as it became red, guess what? It became less. It became less racist.
Yeah.
All the shit that they complain about, that shit stopped in the 70s through the 80s. Well, the last lynching in the South was in 1984. And guess who did it? A guy who had been in the KKK for years.
Yeah.
So it's important. I say it all the time. Perspective is important. You just can't tell me the story and not give me the details to the story.
Here's the thing is that, like, Alabama has this terrible reputation that is just it's not right. It's the wrong reputation, and whatnot. But it still is in the back of everyone's minds. To me, I'm like, thank God, because I've met people that have moved here from up north or have, like, visited here, and they're like, Alabama's the best kept secret. Like, people say that to me all the time. People down here are nice. It doesn't matter what color you are. They're accepting. We have a community type feel. It's that Southern hospitality that you hear about. Yep. And the weather's nice. It's so underrated. But like I said, I think the reputation is like a leftist repellent. Thankfully.
Well, that's what toxic masculinity is, a leftist repellent.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because I don't know. I don't know you guys well enough personally to say this, but I would assume that if you were in a situation where you saw someone being abused, regardless of who they were or whatever, that you would step in to stop that action from happening.
All real men do.
That's what you do. You don't fucking film it. You stop the atrocity from happening.
Yeah.
Right? And so I've already got my I carry everywhere I go. Right? I've got a concealed carry. I carry it in every state that I go to. I don't care. I would rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. So that's my rule. And the Constitution says shall not be infringed.
Yeah.
I'll fight that to the death. Right?
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
The only time that you'll see my gun come out of my holster is if I'm scared. And not much scares me. You know why? I got a fucking gun.
Yeah,
exactly.
If I'm scared to the point where I've had to pull that thing out, you've overstepped your authority in my environment, right?
I completely agree.
So my thing is this. If it ever comes to the place where I have to use my firearm in a self-defense mode, My speech is this. No, you're absolutely right. Some people call me a hero. They're absolutely right. I am a hero. I've been brave enough to carry this on me this entire time for this moment in time. Mm-hmm. I was the one that was brave enough to do that, while all others said, no, I don't want to be called a killer or a potential death threat to other people. That's bravery. Again, that's toxic masculinity. It goes back to the fact I don't give two shits what you fucking think of me or say about me. If we're going to be friends, we get over those things, right?
Exactly.
Well,
and if you're not,
another thing too, though,
I don't give a shit.
Not too long ago, we were all at Mark's house, right? And I mean, we for events and stuff like that. But we obviously share something in common when it comes to working out. Now, we all work out in very different ways. That's for sure, right? But we carry this in common. However, the eclectic group of people that was there, just sitting around talking at any given time, there was people of different colors, nationalities, age. Like I think I was the oldest because I'm 50, but then Mark's 41, and then down into Matt and young kids, his kids hung out with us, and like everybody's talking to each other like we're actually people, because we are actually people. People have differences of opinions, and we bust each other's balls for it. Like fuck, me and Mark have called each other on video nasty fucking things before. Like me and him have gone back and forth before online. Because I started my whole thing with like roasting comedy. Like I roasted other fitness professionals, right? And he was one of them. And at no point in time, like I say this all the time, Mark had no business even wanting to be friends with me, because I fucked with him for absolutely no reason. He did nothing. And in the very beginning, he did absolutely nothing to me. I just fucked with him to fuck with him, right? Because that's what I do.
I like to get a rise out of people.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. But and then we've been close, and then we were distant for a little while, and now he's one of my, besides my wife and son, he's probably my very best friend. And like the thing about that is because we are actually people. We're men. Like we can admit when we're wrong. I've told him, like, God, I fucked that shit. I fucking said. He'll openly admit that I roasted the fuck out of him, that he couldn't keep up with me, because most people can't. But, that was what I find striking, whereas nobody was policing anybody's speech. Like nobody, like there wasn't like like somebody would say the word fag and nobody was like, oh my God. Like, it's like fucking big fucking deal. Like, I mean, gay jokes were made, fucking heterosexual jokes were made. Like, it was like, equal opportunity fucking bashing. And fucking
what I find in today's culture, us white supremacists are the most diverse group of people, right? If you came to a party of mine and came in and said, Cramer, he's on the right, man, he's a white supremacist, and you come to my parties, it looks like the fucking UN at my house. In my family, I have every fucking thing. Let me give you an example. I'm going to give you an example of how leftists just want to be virtue signaling all the time. So I made, this is on Facebook before January 6th. I made a post where I said, I gave a statistic that Asians are the highest earners in this country. Who wants white privilege? I want some of that Asian privilege. And then I tagged two people in that. Mm-hmm. A buddy of mine who he's a professor at Berkeley, just roasted me on how unwoke I was, and I didn't understand, and yada, yada, yada. And so I called him. There was no reason for me to say what I was going to say to him on Facebook. It had no benefit to anybody, right? And we'd known each other for 20 years. And I called him and I said, Ben, can you tell me why you wrote that? He's, because you're a racist. I go, okay. Can you explain why I'm a racist? Because of what you said about Asians. Uh-huh. I said that to two Asians that are my cousins. And by the way, they're not Asian American. Well, they are now, but they're fucking Japanese. Mm-hmm. My uncle owed money to the U.S. government in the 60s. He left to get out from underneath it, right? Waited for the statute of limitations to run its course, and then came back. While he was there, he married a woman and had two boys. Those are my two cousins. Mm-hmm. They're fucking rich.
See, that's my thing, though. Like, if you look back at anybody's history, like, I just don't, like, I don't get it. Like, first of all, if you play, like, it's another thing, too. Like, most of the people that played sports, and this is just me, kind of seem to end up on the right, or at least that used to
Yep.
play sports. Like
Yep.
there's a lot of woke athletes right now, but growing up when you play sports, that is the most diversity you're going to find in a lot of northern high schools, especially. You know what I mean? Like I was on the track team, track captain. I did martial art. I competed in a lot of things, and it was way more diverse in many ways than any place else that in my sector of society. And when that's when people classify, like the typical toxic masculine, meathead, racist, blah blah blah. It's like this thing, like, man, like let me tell you something. Like most dudes I know that work out or that like just want to fucking just be left alone, because that is the true statement. Mm-hmm. I want you to leave me the fuck alone. Like, I want to be able to say what I want to say. If you want to retort back, great. But if you try to enter my fucking world, now we have a whole different issue. Like, why must like your world pour over to my world? Like, you can refer to yourself with whatever pronouns you want. I'll try, but if I fuck up, I don't give a fuck.
See, I don't even play that game. I don't.
I honestly have no trouble with it.
It never stops. If you call them everything they want to be called, they'll just move on to the next thing because now you've capitulated.
Mm-hmm. I will say this. Yeah, I will say this. Like the shit that caused a problem. Like back in the day, there were people that actually had hormonal or whatever issues. Like literally, like they were born both. Hermaphrodite is what it used to be called, and stuff like that. And I still
that's not
don't
trans.
like. No,
that's
it's
not
trans.
Like,
hang on.
And they bring that into that argument, and it has nothing to do.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. They conflate so many arguments. Like my thing is you like the fluidity of it. That's just your opinion. That just is, and you're entitled to one. Now, do I like use the pronouns? If again, as we were talking earlier, if you want to look the part, I will. If I fuck up, don't be pissed at me. Because I will avoid confrontation when not needed.
See, I don't do that. Here's why. I'm sorry, man. I want to jump in real quick. The reason I don't do it is because it is the trans movement is no different scientifically or physically or mentally than the body dysmorphic disease. It has no difference. John Hopkins proved that trans people, the same signals light up in their brain that somebody who's body dysmorphic, who wants their leg or their arm or their tongue removed for whatever reason. We say that they're crazy. But if it has to do with genitals or sex, all of a sudden it's fine. Body dysmorphic, regardless of what you think is different about your body that shouldn't be, is a disorder. It has a name. It's not trans. It's not anything else. It's body dysmorphic disorder. Now, people may say, well, he's an out-of-touch white guy. He doesn't get it. Okay, you can call me whatever you want. That's still what's happening. Right. Mm-hmm. So if somebody comes in, listen to this, if somebody comes in and says, I want to remove my legs, everybody would go, why? You need counseling. You got to go. But if they say, I want to remove my breast, I want to have a piece of my leg ripped out of me to give me a fake penis that doesn't work. And then I have a 75% chance of killing myself within 3 years of you doing this to me. Would we do it? No.
These are strong arguments.
Yeah.
That's why it's important to speak truth and not back down and go, well, I'll try to massage him. No, you're fucking sick. There's something wrong with you that your brain says you need help.
Yeah, you
Let's
need help.
help you.
The thing is, I did an Instagram live recently with he's a former psychotherapist, but he's an attachment specialist, and it just goes to show how powerful dogma can be, especially in the medical field. Mm-hmm. He is one of the rare therapists that would sit with his clients, and they'll say that, okay, it's a chemical imbalance in the brain. You got to prescribe this and this and this to get. And he's sitting there thinking, like, what if it's not a chemical imbalance? What if they need something worked out or whatever? And he actually took it from a what would you call that? Just a natural standpoint. And so he started to work things a little bit differently rather than just writing prescriptions and whatnot, and actually helping his clients solve their issues. But a lot of people don't do what he did. They go along with the dogma and they go along with the prescriptions and whatnot. And it takes you actually questioning things, and people don't question authority. They don't question, what's in their textbooks or anything. But that's what it takes to learn is questioning. Is this right? Is this wrong?
Well, also standing up. Truth is truth. I don't care where you come from. I don't care where you are. Truth is truth, right? For example, people talking about how do I put this the right way? I don't care what you do until what you do requires me now to play into your lunacy. I don't care. You can do whatever you want. What I refuse to do is be told how I have to change my actions to make you feel better. And that's what this whole thing is about, right? Is that people, this group think of, I will go along with what this group says because I get virtue out of it. I get a feeling of belonging, and we're fighting those guys that just don't understand. They're not as enlightened as we are. Okay, we've seen this happen time and time again in history. Do you guys know what the Tulip Wars were? Do you know what the Tulip Crash was in the Netherlands I think it was in the 1800s?
No, what was that?
The Tulip Crash was it's like NFTs or any of this new kind of thing, right? The whole economy was based on tulips.
Okay, yeah.
And it crashed. And so when I look at what's happening now in our culture, the reason that some of us are successful is because we look at these signs. And I made a video about it the other day. Everything that I do is based on history and human nature. I don't care about the science, right? The science we've already seen changes. I grew up with vaccinations that prevented you from getting or passing on, but new vaccines, they don't have that same quality, and we're going to have to learn to live with that. Right?
Apparently.
So if they can change the definitions of things, then the words and the science that they give us doesn't matter. It's human nature and history. What has happened before will repeat itself, and what people have been able to justify before, they'll be able to justify again. So if you can justify locking up Jewish people because they're dirty, filthy creatures, that's what the Nazis said during that period. And everything that they did, and I've been saying it for the last 20 years, everything that they did to the Jewish people, the Romanians, the undesirables, the elites, everything they justified on health. Everything was done for health. And so when you go, that, right? And then you say, well, look at the similarities between then and now. And they go, well, it has nothing to do with that. It was Jews. It's one group against another. And that's what we're fighting against.
The institutions, the medical professionals, they all agreed with it.
Yep.
They went
along with it.
They were all going along with it. And it's exactly what we're seeing today. The institutions and everything are pushing this.
Yep. That's such a good point. I would say, Cramer, we have to have you back on again, but I'm running out of time.
Okay.
So, but no shit. I really would love to have you back on again at some point in time, very, very, very soon. I know that me and you talked about a few other things that I know you have coming up that we would love to have you be able to talk about here also. Because I think that's going to be groundbreaking and a lot of what America needs. But tell people how to find you besides
all
just
you
the
have
TikTok.
to do is search Cramer Says. I'm on all the major platforms. We feed them differently. We're revamping CramerSays.com to be more of a news site. What it started out initially was mainly just to give people a home. And we're changing the dynamics of what we're doing and what my mission is personally, what I'm driving, what I want our team to do. I would say the most important thing is that we're going to be the new version. My view is to be the new version of what WikiLeaks was. Mm-hmm. Is to start being an outlet for information that can't get out anywhere else. Right. The benefit is that our team has millionaires and billionaires behind us that are from the left and from the right that see what's going on with our country. It's amazing when I say that we're working with Democrats as well, right? But they're not fucking crazies. They're not.
That's the thing. That's the thing. I don't think they're all crazy. I mean, it is a small. I will say this: we are the vast majority. The people that want sanity, we're the vast majority of people. And it's to be real, I am an independent voter. I have voted Republican and Democrat. I vote topics. I don't vote politicians. I don't believe we should put so much faith in politicians. I really don't, And we voted all up and down the line. I just like people are like, well, because I still have fairly liberal ideas about like, maybe we could think a way to take care of elderly people a little better than what we do. Maybe like I have all sorts of things like that. Legalization of marijuana. I don't understand why it's illegal. What's illegal to grow a fucking plant? Like that's fucking ridiculous. Like why is it a Republican idea in a lot of places? It's illegal to fucking collect rainwater. Why the fuck can't I collect rainwater? But I also believe that we should put pedophiles to death. Like I have very staunch like views that way also. And I just think a lot more people think like me than others. They're like they not directly like me, but they have brought very few people are like.
There's enough people that think that, right? I mean, that's what's happening. And here's what we're going to see. I don't know if you saw the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. She got convicted of 5 of the 6 charges.
Yeah.
So she's going to spend somewhere, 25 to 30 years in prison, somewhere along that line. She's the tip of the iceberg. What I was saying earlier before you came on, Matt, was that one of the things that I realized, having worked in radio and TV and entertainment, is that anything that you want is available to you. Anything, right? So what we've heard about Ghislaine Maxwell is the fucking tip of the iceberg. We're not even close to scratching that surface. And that's what's scaring these people. And that's one of the initiatives that we're working on behind the scenes. I'm one of those guys. I'm kind of like Trump. I'm not telling you what I'm doing. I've got 5 fucking initiatives in the air right now, personal initiatives that I'm working on. I sleep maybe 4 to 6 hours a day. So being sick with COVID kind of, took me down, and I did catch up on my sleep. But I'm back in action, and we're going after these things because when it starts breaking, right? I'm not James O'Keefe. I know James. He wants to be a star. He wants to be seen as this big thing, right? Alex Jones is the same way. They want to be seen.
Yeah, he needs to be careful.
Right. I don't need that. Right.
Nah.
I want the information out there. And again, I've said this on TikTok. It doesn't matter how many followers you have. That doesn't matter.
Right.
How many views do you have? How many times is a message that you've given out or something that you've said, how many times has that been seen and heard and repeated? That's how you make a movement, not in followers. Right. So what we're doing here today is we can have a frank conversation. I've said it a million times in the groups that we work with. If we all go to dinner right now, we're not going to order the same fucking thing. How can we possibly think that we're all going to agree on everything that we come together about? But we have to have this core structure. And this core structure is going to be the rules on how we have society. Yeah. We have that in place already. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. The Constitution does
agree with that.
Right? So we need to get back to that core. And once we get back to that core, everything else will fade away.
Absolutely.
What's his name? And I'll wrap it up with this is, oh God, what was his name? He was called Mr. Conservative. He ran for, oh my God, glasses, gray hair. He was the conservative. He was from the 60s. He ran for president and he lost. I think it was in 68.
It's not Goldwater.
Barry Goldwater.
Barry Goldwater. Okay.
Barry Goldwater. Do you know why he lost the vote?
What's that?
Because he was against affirmative action. And the Democrats used that against him. That's when they realized they could use race to a greater extent than they had ever used it before in politics. What he said was, no man should have special treatment from the government for anything. It should be on a person-by-person basis and not based on the person's skin color, ethnicity, or what their religion is.
Wow.
And they used it against him, right? That's why he lost. So he wasn't against the black community. He was against giving special treatment to a specific group of people. Now, what do we see in our society, right? Gays want it. LGBT. I'm going to take that back. That's not true. That LGBTQ wants it. That is a political group. It has nothing to do with the lifestyle, right? Because I've got gay friends. I've got gay family members.
Yeah.
We don't give two shits.
Nope.
Right? And you've seen this conservative gays that are on the right and how they feel persecuted, not from us, but from the left, because they're not part of that group thing. So to wrap things up, our initiative over the next few months is to start, and I beg for other people to do this. Get fucking involved. Yes. And if you don't know, reach out to somebody that you look up to and say, how do I get involved? Right? All politics are local. Start at the school boards. Yep. We've already seen how powerful they are and how they're indoctrinating our children. Start there, right? Once you've moved on from that, then go to your state legislatures. That's what I do. I call these people. I worked with everybody in the state of Indiana for the last 12 years. I call them on the carpet. Why aren't you standing up? You promised to be a leader. You said you would protect our rights, and you're silent. So when they didn't answer my calls, guess what I did? I've gone out and now I'm actively recruiting people to run against these motherfuckers. I'm done with it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's how you do it. That's why I don't sleep very much. So I appreciate the opportunity this afternoon or this evening. I think that it's going to take more and more like this. I know what we're going to be called. I know what they're going to say. I know what the comments are going to be. You know what? I don't give two shits. Couldn't care less.
I think you might be surprised. Right. People that watch us tend to see stuff our way, but we have to have you back on. Absolutely. So,
can't wait.
But thank you very much. I'm sorry I have to cut it short, but
that's all right.
I have clients. So Cramer, I'm going to message you a little later. Maybe we can start even looking towards forward. Matt, man, thank you very much. And everybody else watching, check this out. This will be up on Spotify probably by tomorrow. The full video is up on Spotify. You can follow us there at Gainzcast. You can follow us on YouTube, Facebook page, and then follow Matt. Matt, where can they find you? It's Matt S. Stevens, Matt _S_ Stevens, right? Yeah. Just about everywhere. And I'm the MFing COO. So have at it. And Cramer, thank you again, man. We'll talk soon.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Cramer.
See you. Bye-bye, guys.